Welcome to tonight's edition of Titan Lear Talks. I'm here with Katie Chain Miller. Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Hi.
So Katie has a pretty extensive background as a softball player and a coach. So Coach, can you just kind of take us through your journey in the softball world?
Sure. Started pitching really young, fell in love with it. Put in a lot of hard work. I'm not the typical pitcher size, so knew I had to work hard, had a great coach growing up. Went on to high school, starting pitcher there, won 2 state championships, was on a very successful travel team that traveled around the country and played. I went on to play and pitch 4 years at Ohio State. I had the opportunity to go to England, play for their national team, and coach their younger players for a summer. And then I came back to be the pitching coach at the University of Akron. At that point, my focus has changed a little bit, and I went back to get my master's degree. And that's when I really started giving private pitching lessons. I took some time off while I became a teacher, and then when I had children, I kind of went full-time with the private lessons. And I've been doing that full-time since about 2010. So.
Awesome. And I think you got a little modest probably with your background there. I mean, Gatorade Player of the Year 2 times, still hold a bunch of records, all kinds of stuff, right? So obviously as a player, you've done all these amazing things, and now you're helping guide, right, countless girls. So how many girls are you currently working with?
I have about 60 to 70 on my list, give or take some that one, for example, lives about 5 hours away, so I don't get to see her very often. Some just check in with me once every month or two. But I probably see 60 girls or so on a consistent basis.
Okay. So, the world of coaching has evolved, right? And especially with softball pitching, hitting, shooting, right? Swinging a golf club, throwing a football, all these specialized movements that are getting more and more and more technical. The day and age of the private coach, it was resisted for a long time, right? And, I know there were a lot of barriers that had to get broken down. And you've been doing this now for quite a while. So what do you think it is that has made private coaches so crucial to athletes developing?
I mean, I think it's the trend of a lot of one sport athletes. A lot of people now have time to put in all year round. I also think that a lot of other avenues have been exhausted. The days of just lifting weights and being strong to be able to throw the ball fast, everybody can do that now. So everybody's looking for that edge to be better than the next person, and to have somebody analyzing every single little move and seeing how you can get the most out of your body. They need to do that to just even stay up with, their teammates and to stay current. So I just think, I even have 8-9-year-olds. Those are the ones that want to learn it right from the start and not have to fix anything down the road. And then my older girls, of course, want to get that extra edge to be the best they can be.
And, one of the things, I know you coach a lot of girls, and, you treat them just like, a high school coach would treat his entire team. And, you pour into these girls. And one of the things you're really big about is goal setting. Mm-hmm. And you even use the Titan app for some of your goal setting things. So, how do you think goal setting kind of plays into that development when you're talking about 18-year-olds or you're talking about 18-year-olds? Right. Yeah. How's that come into play?
I look back on my own career, and I played softball because it was fun. It became more fun when we won. It became even more fun when I could strike a lot of people out, and when I could, throw perfect games and get all the accolades. That was all bonus and made it even more fun. Sometimes running sprints and lifting weights isn't so much fun. So to get yourself through the harder times, you have to know why you're doing it. I would have never run the sprints I ran just to run them. And I'm still a very goal-oriented person, and I always have to have something to push me in everything I do, some sort of goal, or why am I doing this? So I think it's super important. I remember a time of just on a treadmill, and I was just really struggling. And at that point, I think it was Arizona that was the really good college. And I think every step I took, I was just saying Arizona, or UCLA, or state champion, or every little thing. So because of that, I feel like if girls they don't have to be realistic goals all the time. Arizona was the number one team in the country. Me playing there from Ohio was probably not going to happen. But by me wanting that to happen pushed me hard. And while I didn't make it there, I was still, able to play at a high level and reach a lot of the goals, like the state champion and player of the year and all of those things. So I want to make sure, even from the get-go, that the girls understand why are you here at lessons? What's the point of this? If there's no point of lessons, then why are your parents shelling out all this time and money to do it? So, and it also makes it a really good thing to check in on. Okay, we said that you wanted to hit 50 by this date. How's it going? What are you doing to make sure that you can do that? So I think it just makes everybody on the same page, and a way to figure out how to work to get those goals.
Yeah, and with the private coaches, one of the things that's nice is you get that individual time with those girls, right? And you get to have those individual conversations where sometimes when they get on their team, and in softball there's 12 girls there and 2 coaches, right? Those private moments can't happen. You get in other sports and it might be 20 to 1, 50 to 1. So, I think private coaches play a huge role in that. So one of the things we're really looking at Titan is this idea of shared vision, right? And we talk about that, you set your goals, and if we all have that same vision of the state championship or whatever we're going to measure success as, right? If we all have that shared vision, we're more likely to achieve it, right? So what are some of the ways you as a private coach work with like the girl, and then also whatever team she's on, to kind of use that shared vision or those goals to, accomplish greatness?
Mm-hmm. First, I think I make them write down their goals, and I have a printout every year that I give them. I tell them to make it their own and draw pictures and write inspirational words. I make them redo them if they're not clear. I put 3 goals for training. What are your goals to accomplish during training, and how are you going to get there? And we talk through them. We make it clear, like, okay, this doesn't explain how you're going to do that. Just practicing more is a little too broad. How are you going to practice to meet that goal of throwing faster? So we go through that, and we spend quite a bit of time going back and forth and making sure that the goals make sense, that they're achievable, that it's going to make them work. So that's the first step. And we do that every fall when they get on a new team. We make sure to talk about, most girls are on a school team and a summer travel team. So we make sure that they're clear on, they're 2 different teams. What are the things we're able to accomplish on those 2 teams? I think it's also important to know what's going to get in our way. There are so many different things that can come up. And for each girl, it's different. Maybe they don't have teammates that work as hard as them, and that's going to drag them down. Maybe they're the worst one on the team and they just feel defeated and don't think that they can even work hard enough to achieve their goals. Maybe they feel their coach isn't fair. Maybe their parents push hard. There's so many things. So we also work on how do we take that out of the equation and can control what we can control. And then the other aspect is I usually like them to, I talk to many of the team coaches. I think it's really important to be open, and everybody who's working with the player needs to be on the same page. I've had experiences where I don't know the coach doesn't know me, and we're saying two different things to the girl, and that just gets really confusing. The team coach might have the goal of something completely different than what I think the girl should have or what the girl wants for herself. So making sure that everybody's working together. And I have so many conversations, phone, text, email. I'll have coaches that come to the private lesson so that they can see what the girls are working on, so that they can see what their goals are. I also think it's important to hear what the coach's goals are for the girls. I might have a pitcher who says, I want to throw 60 miles an hour by this date. And the coach may say, I don't really care if she can throw 60. I care if she can, spin the ball and throw pitches that keep the hitters off balance. So that's where we need to come together and say, okay, you want to throw fast and the coach wants some movement. So let's work together on how we can accomplish both of those things and make everybody happy. So that just really communication would be the one word that would describe all of that.
Yeah. And, we've talked about how the private coach industry just continues to grow and explode, and we see this. And, so my background is not in private coaching, it's in big team coaching. So I will say, we've had private coaches that I've had experiences with that, maybe don't handle it the right way. And I guess here's your chance, because most of the people watching this are coming more from my background, where they're at the head of a team and they just hear, oh, Coach Shane Miller told me this. Okay. So, what would your message be about how to handle or how to approach if a kid comes to you and says, I'm working with a private coach? How should we handle that?
I have had so many experiences of girls coming and saying, my coach says I have to do it like this, which is different than what you say. So I always encourage them to ask the coach why. I try to make sure that everything I teach, I tell the girls why it's important they do it that way. I also try and let them know if there's other ways that can accomplish the same thing. There's a lot of it and there's a lot of information. So sometimes they're not aware of all that. For example, a changeup. There are, hundreds of ways to throw a changeup. I teach one basic way that has lots of different twists and turns that you can take with it. So when a girl comes and says, my changeup isn't working in a game and my coach said to do this, my initial reaction is, oh, I've been working with you for a year on this. How is this coach telling you something different? But we usually talk through it. And that's what, as a team coach, they should be asking the player why they're doing it a certain way. If they don't agree with the way they're doing it, or if they think they should be doing it differently, finding out why they're doing it the way they are to begin with. Many times the player might just say, I don't know, I never worked on this with my coach. And then you can work together there. What's really hard is when I see pitchers once a week for 52 weeks, and then all of a sudden they get on a team and the coach wants to change everything. I don't feel that that's fair to the year that the girls put in to working on one way, and all of a sudden having to change it for the 3 months that they're on a team. So the girl needs to decide, where am I going to put all of my efforts, and where am I going to listen? And if it's not to that private coach, then they shouldn't be paying the money for that. A lot of parents shell out a lot of money to get that one-on-one attention. So the team, and what I go back to what I said earlier is really the communication. So if there's ever a time where I have issues, I say, give me their number. I will call them and I will explain why I think it's good for you to do it this way. And I'm open to listening to why they think it's bad. I've had a few girls that throw amazing changeups when they're with me at lessons, but with 60 girls, I don't get to see them in games. So when I get that feedback that they say, my coach told me to do it different, and I'm like, why? It looks great. Then I call the coach, and the coach says, it's nowhere near the plate. It's a horrible pitch. Then I'm like, okay, now we can talk about it, because now it's different than, we're seeing two different things. So again, working together, and communicating, even if it's through a text or even if it's through the girl. You know, my coach says I need to do it this way. I say why. She goes back and says, my coach says this, and you can come together and even make a compromise without having to give up on what we believe is the best for the kid.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think that communication, I mean, you just hit the nail right in the head. I know in my experience, every time someone tells me they have a private coach, I tell them, listen, here's my phone number, right? And I want them to reach out to me because I want us to be on the same page, right? If you have those resources, use them.
Yes.
Okay? As long as, again, we have that shared vision and we're all working towards that same goal of player development and, get moving the team forward. I think it's a good relationship. It can be very, very healthy. And, when you don't communicate, like you said, the girl kind of gets stuck in the middle or the athlete gets stuck in the middle. And, if it's a high schooler or a middle schooler, sometimes they can't communicate between adults, and it almost is like, a kid being stuck in a divorce situation, right? And they're trying to communicate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, it becomes very, very difficult. So, well, we really appreciate your time. This has been great. Like I said, you're our first private coach. I think that communication advice was big. So the last question I have for you is more of an athlete geared question. So, looking at your, history and what you did and all these accomplishments. So if there is some young athlete watching this right now that says, man, I would really like to do that, or I want to do something similar to that, what advice would you give them?
I think the biggest advice I would say is it's got to be in your heart. You have to love it. If you don't, you can say you love it. You can say you want to be the best. You can say you want to be a champion. But if you don't really feel that in your heart, you will never put in the work needed to do it. I am not a typical pitcher's body. I'm short. I knew that. Someone once told me I would never throw 60 miles an hour. And I said, I'm going to prove that person wrong. And it was in my heart and I loved it. I loved pitching. And because I loved it, I worked really hard at it. If I look at some of the best pitchers I've worked with over the years, they love it. And I don't have to tell them to practice more. I have to tell them to practice less. Back off, you're pushing too hard. So it's all in that heart. You can't make up a love for something. So if you truly love it, you will put in the time. So really just, let your heart speak for itself and put the work behind your love for the game.
All right, Coach Shane Miller, thank you so much for your time. If you enjoyed this content, there's much more like it on our app and also on our YouTube channel.
Thank you.